Good evening and welcome. Late last year, the Fiji Revenue and Customs Services, or FRCS, announced new online services that taxpayers and businesses would be able to take advantage of. And since then, it has focused on employer and employee readiness for these new services. And tonight on the show, we're taking an in-depth look at some of these new initiatives and what they mean for the taxpayer. We have joining us Mr. Fazrul Rahman, the FRCS Director Revenue Management, and Mr. Vilimoni Nailote, the Chief Auditor, New Taxpayer Information Systems. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's start off with some of the initiatives that were announced in November last year, that were started off.
Sure.
What sort of response has FRCS been receiving since then from businesses and Fijians in general in terms of these online services that have been provided?
Yeah, I think it has been quite good actually. Fiji Revenue and Customs Service has embarked on a major reform to automate its operations. And of course, just like any other system, there will be initial issues with regards to the adaptation. In this regard, we're talking about taxpayers system and FRCS system. Taxpayers has been using the manual system of filing returns. Now we are trying to create a new cultural change whereby taxpayers have to use technology. So initially, of course, we have worked very hard with the taxpayers, with the taxpaying community to ensure that they are brought into the system. We had set up a number of kiosks at our FRCS offices. There has been massive education campaigns, and more importantly, there has been a lot of industry discussions, taxpayer level association discussions. So the general feedback has been very good, very positive, because the idea was to ensure that we simplify the cost of doing business in Fiji, or rather reduce the cost of doing business in Fiji. We simplify tax administration, and of course to make it easier for the taxpaying community to deal with us.
So these services have been moved online as an alternative to people walking into the office or having to walk to the office and getting access. Could you just give us a brief summary of what exactly has been put online?
Actually, if you go back to the initial launch, way back in December for the 2019, we actually put registration. Taxpayers who want to register into the taxpayer online services. The short form is TPOS. Companies, businesses, individuals, those who want to have a joint ID card, the FNPF, FRCS ID card, and also those who want to change their circumstances. For example, you change your residential address. You can go into the taxpayer online service, sign up, and then you go on from there. And for businesses, returns filing. For example, VAT returns. As you know, VAT is a major source of revenue for the government in order to provide these services. And we have started with the VAT return filing. And in terms of going online, it has been, we can see that since the start, the numbers have grown as we go from month to month. And also telecommunication levy, the telecommunication companies, the FBT, the fringe benefit return, that has already been automated way back in December 2019. And secondly, for the phase 2 of the taxpayer online services, we have gone on to the tax compliance certificate. That's way back in November 3rd, just last year.
So looking at what you will be implementing come February this year, can you tell us about those services?
Yes, certainly. I think, as my colleague has mentioned, if you look at the overall taxation cycle, anyone who wants to deal with FRCS, they have to register with us first. So we have rolled out that feature of registration. Anyone who wants to register with FRCS, we have made it online. Now the next phase is, once you are registered, the next phase is to file a return. And for that, we have launched the value-added tax filing through online. The next phase, in addition to what my colleague has mentioned, we are moving towards the filing of the corporate income tax return and the personal income tax returns. We're talking here about somebody who has a company set up. Now they have to file their returns for the last financial year or going forward. So we are working towards ensuring that in time to come, those things are brought in the system. But at the present time, for the month of February, our focus is towards PAYE. PAYE, as we know, is pay as you earn. These are the taxes that are collected by the employer from employees and remitted to FRCS. So that whole process of administration had already been made as a final tax few years ago. So employer at the present time as I speak is responsible to deduct and pay to FRCS. So we are taking that system, we are enhancing that current system into the new IT system that we are bringing on board. And when I'm talking about enhancement, I'm talking about data security, I'm talking about data integrity, we're talking about checks and balances. So the present focus is towards PAYE, which is about out of the total income tax revenue, it accounts for around 50%.
So we'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we'd like to talk about some of the stakeholders that you worked with in preparation for this move online. Stay with us, we'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. We're talking about tax administration in Fiji and how FRCS is making the move online. If we carry on the discussion, how do you think this will help people or this will help the FRCS and Fijians in tax administration?
Okay, certainly. So the new system is going to simplify the administration of taxes in Fiji. The benefits are many. If you look at the benefits that will be accrued to the taxpaying community, we are talking here about simplification. We're talking here something simple as trying to hire a taxi or come in a bus and go to FRCS officer in Asese to do your business. So those things will be made online. So the significant benefit is towards simplification. It's also towards reduction in cost. It's also towards having a transparent communication with FRCS. As we know that at the present time when somebody is engaging with FRCS, there's a lot of information that has to be given. There has to be a lot of checks and balances. There has to be a lot of trail. So the new system is going to ensure that all dealings by taxpayers with FRCS is all recorded. It's all automated. It's going to bring the overall transparency in the system will be there. From FRCS perspective, the new system is going to ensure that we have abundance of intelligence. We'll know about what's going on. We will be in a position to match data. We are going to use those intelligence to target our auditing. We are going to use that intelligence to do industry profiling. We are able to know, for example, which sector is growing, which sector is not growing. At the present time, we're talking here about small and medium sector, MSME, micro, small and medium sector. That is the present focus. And we are also seeing implementation of a number of government subsidies. So the new system is going to help us to ensure that we actually see what's happening in that sector as well. So benefits are significant and many, but overall at national level, we're talking here about the ease of doing business. We're talking here about reduction in the cost of doing business, and these are the factors that also matters to investors as well. When an investor wants to come into Fiji, they would like to look at the quality of tax administration. We do have very attractive tax policies. Our tax laws are modern. We have lots of incentives. Now the idea is about efficiency in tax administration. We're talking about FRCS here. So if the system is all automated, it's going to build confidence to the investor to come to Fiji because they feel that we are having sound ways of doing things.
Is this something that was a long-term project for the FRCS, or was it something that was done in response to a new COVID world?
Generally, as my colleague has already mentioned with regards to what we've already started in the system, we were to introduce this system a long time back. The idea is that just like any other business out there, there's a need to enhance the way we do things. The whole business world has changed. The whole way of transacting with the business community has changed. We are in a digital era. Yes. And we are of no exception with regards to how we should deal with our customers. So it has been there on our plan for many years.
Yes.
And the time is right. Even things got implemented during COVID period, whilst people were at their homes and lockdown, they were still accessing our system, for example, insofar as the registration is concerned. And
also, like we are a tax administration, and there are also other tax administration around the world. We have the international organizations who actually helps in terms of improving the efficiency of the tax administration. For example, in terms of improving our integrity of our registered taxpayer database, in terms of supporting voluntary compliance. Voluntary compliance, we want the taxpayers to do the right thing. And FRCS has got an obligation to actually provide them with the right information in order for them to comply. You understand the compliance triangle. Right down there, there's a triangle. Right down there are those people who are willing to comply. So we must keep them down there. So in terms of this, it's making easier for them, 24/7. They can do it from their homes, from their offices, in front of their laptops, and they can lodge the returns. They can even request for clarification. Like we actually put that online in November 3rd. And also for those that are having difficulties in payments of tax, the time to pay arrangement is there. The remission of penalties, that's all on the policy already acts from November 3rd, 2020. And this is not only Fiji is working in isolation, but we are working in conjunction and in line with what's happening all around the world. And in terms of the international organization like IMF, they actually are supporting us a lot in terms of going forward with this project, which has been there, and we are actually taking steps now to actually implement it and let the taxpaying public enjoy the services.
So far, this is, of course, this is a work in progress. This is, I think, Module 3, if I'm not wrong, that is being implemented come February.
We on phase 2.
Phase 2, pardon me. So has the confidence been high in terms of the efficiency of the services that are being provided by FRCS online so far?
Sure. If you, like as my colleague was on to add on with regards to the international organizations, the international world is moving towards this innovation in other tax administration we are seeing. And if you look at the actual confidence in the system that we have rolled out so far, if you look at the actual statistics, so we have seen close to 39,000 taxpayers out there who have signed up into our new system. So they are into our new system. They are with us in our new system. And on daily or rather on monthly basis, we are seeing around 15,000 transactions that are being dealt with through the new system. For example, we're talking here about somebody is applying for a TIN. Somebody's address got changed, they need to be updated. Somebody have registered a company or a business, now they have to register with FRCS. If you add all those up for the month of December, the latest month, has been 15,000 odd. And in addition to that, we had about 12,000 odd inquiries being made with FRCS, which we have responded as well. My colleague can add more.
See, this shows, like with any new system, there are teething issues. We are faced with it, going into that environment. But the important thing is that we engage the taxpayers. Just like that, 12,000, more than 12,600 emails have been received and calls on our contact center. And our email info@frcs.org.fj. This shows that taxpaying public, they are interested with TIPOS. They want to know more with TIPOS. If they are faced with the problems, they are contacting 1326, the hotline. They are also contacting info@frcs.org.fj. So there are teething problems. We are dealing with it. We have mechanisms in place. We have our kiosks, like already mentioned. We have our info@frcs. They can email in. We got the contact center from 6 a.m. till in the evening, and also on Saturdays up till 1 p.m., 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. So we have mechanisms there to actually, we are encouraged that taxpayers, if they are faced with issues, they are coming back to us, and this shows even the number of hits on our videos in our education materials. For example, in the FRCS website, it's more than 6,000. So they are going there and they are educating themselves with the tutorial videos. They are looking at our website. They want to know more about the new taxpayer online services that we are offering.
So we'll go to a commercial break after this. When we come back, let's talk about how this will help the FRCS monitor even more strongly, tax evasion that's going on. So stay with us. We'll be back after a very short break. Welcome back. Mr. Rahman, when we were speaking earlier, you mentioned that this automation will also help you focus on MSMEs. Before we move on to tax evasion, can we just talk about how these MSMEs will be assisted with this automation?
Certainly. As we know, at the present time, we do have a SME incentive. So if we do have a small business out there whose gross turnover is less than $500,000, and they belong to selected sectors such as specific tourist activities, handicrafts, and so on. So they are being exempted from paying tax. So below $500,000, there's no income tax to pay if you are in the SME crowd area. In addition to that, at the present time, as we also know, that the government has introduced a subsidy, the MSME concessional loan rather, that is being administered by FRCS. So the whole administration of that particular system will be done by FRCS. But most importantly, FRCS is there to ensure that we provide advice, timely advice, quality advice. And in that regard, some of these concessions that we have introduced are also relevant for the small businesses. So the ease, the pace, and the mode of dealing with FRCS, especially for the small business, will be made more easier. And I must say that if you look at that MSME's concessional loan that has been issued, we have issued so far more than $27 million of SME concessional loan. And of course, the administration at the present time is done by our separate system. But going forward, any incentive for that matter, whether MSME loan that we currently have, will be all brought into the new system. So the administration will be very easy.
Looking at
just before that, when we talk about MSMEs, a lot of these businesses operate in rural or maritime areas, and this move to online services, it may be a bit difficult for people in remote areas to access it. So we're also making sure at the same time that we're not leaving these businesses behind.
Sure. In terms of that, alternatively, FRCS is already, what I can say, know about the situation that is happening on the ground. We also have our offices all throughout the country. For example, if you take the rural area of Ragi or Tabwa, we got the Ragi office there. For example, if farmer comes in and he does not understand how to do the tipos, we got our offices there. We can even go in, and we have forms there in the website, and they can fill it in. Maybe they cannot do it online, and they can do the form, sign it, and then the officers can help them go through the process, which is already been also been happening already. But it's important that we understand the overall tax-paying population in Fiji. In terms of there are businesses, corporates, there are also small businesses. The issue is that most of them, if you look at the complaints, most of them want to comply, but they don't know how. So we need to assist them in every way possible. For example, if somebody wants an advice, we got our offices. That's why you see over the years, FRCS was only present in a few towns around the country. And now we are around Raki, we are in Ba, we are even in Nusuri. We have expanded our reach, and also Lambasa and Sabu Sabu out there. So,
as my colleague said, one of the strategy around dealing with the small business had been, firstly, we have set up an internal SME unit within FRCS. So prior to, say, 2019, we did not have a dedicated team in FRCS that deals with SME. SME has their own needs, their own accounting system, own way of doing their business. So that was one step to ensure that we have a dedicated focus within FRCS to ensure that we attend to that. With regards to the new system that has come on board and how SME are going to be brought into the system, so what happens is everything continues as is. What we have done, we have set up dedicated kiosks in FRCS office. Somebody walks into the FRCS office and that person is not computer literate, does not know how to use technology. So we walk with the taxpayer and we bring the taxpayer into the system. So the idea is that we're going to give the taxpayer the one-time login code. We're going to work with him to get registered with us, and we'll do a bit of education. Because the point is that once you are into the system, then all future dealings, irrespective of wherever you are in any part of the world, you can access FRCS office through online. So, of course, initially, to be in the system, that could be the hard part. And of course, we are making it easier by ensuring that we have dedicated kiosks. Once the taxpayer is into the system, then all the future return filing, all the future inquiries with taxpayer, all the future application of tax incentives, anything to do with FRCS as far as tax is concerned can be all done through online.
Now, as with anyone, the moment you say you have to pay your taxes, everyone wants to avoid the tax man, right? Which is something that the FRCS has been struggling with consistently, yearly. And one of the biggest thing is that businesses mainly are the culprits because they tend to look for loopholes that they can exploit. With FRCS taking their services online, is this going to be something that will be a thing of the past, or do you think that there's still going to be little things that might slip through the cracks?
Yeah, certainly what, as my colleague has already mentioned with regards to FRCS benefits, the new system is going to give us abundance of information, intelligence, and the good part is that it will be all automated. In terms of data analysis to find out industry profiles, say for example, let's look at the forestry sector. There are a lot of activities going on in that sector. Now the question is FRCS able to tackle any taxation challenges in that area? So now we'll have taxpayers that belong to that sector in our system, and we'll be able to profile each and every one. We'll be able to do benchmarking. We are able to ascertain what is the level of profits being ascertained. We are able to see which businesses are continuously making losses and they're still operating. We are able, because the financial statements will also be automated. So which means that we'll be able to look at the cash flow statements versus the profit statements. So the point here is that the new system is going to give us more capability to do our auditing work, more investigative work. So there would be a positive spin-off in the revenue. So once we have abundance of information with us, then we'll know how to use our resources efficiently. Which taxpayers are the ones that we need to pay attention to, which are the ones that we need to go and do education, which are the ones who has been always showing losses, always claiming refunds, and yet the business is flourishing, the asset base is growing. So the question is how businesses in this situation are able to sustain their affairs. And we can validate in a more transparent, in a more objective way if we use our system, because we can match the data. If a business in a particular sector is showing losses, whereas the other business in the same sector is showing profit, and they're in the same geographical location, same markets. So the question is that why we have like difference of tax positions. So that's one example.
That's interesting. We'll carry on the discussion when we come back from our break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's talk about some of the stakeholders that you worked with in preparation for these online services. FRCS has, of course, mentioned that it has worked with accounting firms, businesses. You've consulted with ordinary Fijians and taxpayers. What sort of things are they asking for from the FRCS?
Yes, thank you. Since the start of the project, we have engaged some of our important partners. I want to take this opportunity to thank them. The Fiji Commerce and Employers Federation, the registered tax agents, our registered tax agents who are our very important partners. We want to thank the general taxpayers. Firstly, before we actually implement a system, we got a external testers program. We work with, we give out expressions of interest for those particular taxpayers, especially, for example, if we do it for PAYE, those that are lodging the PAYE, they express interest, they come on board and they come and test the system. And our team in FRCS actually looks at the issues that, mostly as any customer, they want efficiency in the whole process. They want, to make it easier. They want, when they comply, at the back of their mind as any business, they want to reduce costs in terms of their dealings with the FRCS, which is the way the whole business community is moving towards, creating more efficiency in the system and reducing cost as we go along. And Actually, these are very important important partners that we work with on a regular basis.
You're actually advising employers and employees to actually get ready for this.
On that, in terms of the employers, there are some very critical information that we already put out there, because on February 1st, pay-as-you-earn filing, PAYE filing, will be going live. So, in terms of the transition towards the in preparation for the going live, it's important for those employers out there. It's important for them. You know, actually the current system, they send in their employer monthly summary. You know, in terms of and that will enable FRCS to calculate pay as you earn. But moving into the new system, they will be using the new TPOS online, the taxpayer online services, TPOS. An important message that has already gone to them is the tax identification number and the date of birth match. This is absolutely critical for the employers and the employees. For employees, please ensure we already communicated with them through email blasts that go out to them. And we take this opportunity to thank the Fiji Commerce and Employees Federations, the tax agents who are helping us in this regard. They are us, and we are them. We are together in this. And in terms of employees, they are to ensure with the employers. FRCS initially, they sent out communication to them to update their employee name, date of birth, and tax ID, so that we can validate in preparation. Important issue here is, if you are the employer, for example, you are the employer, and one of the employees does not have a match with the date of birth or TIN, it's not accurate, it's not up to date, the whole file will not be accepted. And this is why we are rigorously, we already informed them. Only over 600 files have already come in for us to validate, to ensure that they are prepared. And now we have done it the other way around. We have gone to them, those who haven't done it, and we have communicated to them. We actually give them all those information to check with their employees. It's much easier for us to work with the employers rather than working with thousands and thousands of employees.
So this will impact, is due to impact around 4,000 employees in Fiji.
Yeah, more than 4,000.
And the response that you've gotten so far seems positive to you?
Yeah, I think certainly, as my colleague has mentioned, we're talking here about PAYE filing. So PAYE filing is done by the employer, not by the employee. Yeah. That was a major reform of 2012, where we have ensured that employer deducts the right amount of tax at source for the employee and gives to FRCS. So what was happening prior to this system that we are trying to roll out, we were receiving electronic information in any case. But going into the new system, we have enhanced that requirement. The TIN of the employee and the date of birth of the employee must be accurate as possible, because that employer information will be matched against with the employee information which we already have, because everybody got the TIN. So the point here is that education, that awareness is very critical. The response has been good. It requires a lot of communication with the employers, and we are confident of meeting those timelines. So our humble plea to the employers out there is to work with us with regards to ensuring that we are in this together, so that the file that you will be sending to us, it does not get rejected because one employee's information is incorrect.
So as optimistic as you will try to be, of course, moving forward with this, there's always the possibility that there may be a few employers that may not want to comply with these requirements. When coming across situations like this, what does the FRCS do? Certainly,
if you go back in time, in 2012, when we had a similar situation, we have rolled out PAYE as a final tax. Requirement was on the employer to ensure they deduct tax for employees and pay to us. So we had seen issues where what we call their files getting rejected. So we had to engage more and more, explain to them. And I think the information that needs to be shared out there is that this information is very critical for the employer as well. Because going forward, or even now, employer is able to claim all their payroll expenses in their profit and loss statement. And if their payroll information is not being picked up by FRCS because the PAYE system is not picking it up, there would be situations in the future where we'll deny them claiming this particular expense.
Yes,
So it's very critical that we, like at the present time, we are not that rigid. We are working with the, we are allowing the deductions, and of course we verify things later. But going forward, if the employer is not up to date with their employee details, because if we edit up all the employees' details, is a payroll bill. So, and those payroll bill are allowed as a tax deduction for income tax purposes. So there would be situations there with difficulty. And equally from employee side, when the employee wants to go and inquire whether you have deducted my right tax, whether you're given to FRCS or not, so employee will also be affected because the files hasn't come on board. So we are working together with the employers. We are pleading with the employers, please let's work on this together, and it will be very much easier in terms of tax administration.
Thank you for that. Many things clarified. We've got one more segment to go. We'll be back with our final segment after this very short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Reserve Bank of Fiji, in its report, mentioned that revenue collection for the FRCS last year for 2020 has been low compared to other several years. How does the FRCS plan to ensure 100% revenue collection to aid the country's current economic situation?
Okay, certainly. I think as we look at the equation, so revenue is a function of economy. When the economy is down, so revenue will be down, and this is not only in Fiji but around the world as well. And we all know there was the overall global slowdown that was experienced before COVID-19 came into Fiji. So the point here is that there were economic impacts that filtered into revenue, and there has certainly been a revenue decline. If you look at the statistics, we had collected $2.8 billion prior to COVID coming in. Then after COVID, our revenue went down to $2.2 billion. So there's a reduction of around 30% revenue shortfall. Now, this year's revenue forecast is $1.5 billion. So the question is how we are going to recover these revenues. So the recovery is all about FRCS assisting the economy to grow. And in that regard, we have seen a number of government policies with regards to tax incentives. So we have to grow the base, the economic base. And tax can be a player in that as well. But in addition to that, we are also working towards improving tax compliance. There are revenues out there that are still to be collected, and there are issues with compliance. We also have a stock of an amount of tax areas. But we have to manage it in a more balanced way because times are hard. We need to ensure that we are not rigid in FRCS in terms of collection. But the point is that it's a normal economic cycle, normal revenue cycle. When there is a trough, there will be a peak later on. And how FRCS as an institution can help to ensure that we help the economy to grow is through basically the incentive that we are administering. And the levels that we were before, prior to COVID, it will be a few years until we go back and reach that level. We were moving towards a revenue of $3 billion mark at one stage, and then we had a global slowdown, and then COVID, and then revenue came down. So we feel, based on the initial analysis, we feel that we have actually bottomed out. Now we are slowly climbing back, and revenue situation will improve as we go into the future.
So you mentioned about revenue collection. Of course, this is not something that can be completely forgotten or just written off. This is, of course, going to have to be done at some point in time. Sure. You also mentioned an integrative approach to these collections. Could you give us an idea of what these might be? Would it be a general broad-based approach or maybe a case-by-case basis? Okay.
Certainly, if you look at the overall tax system that we currently have in Fiji, the move is towards having a lower rate and broad-based tax regime. Taxes has to be as low as possible. That was the philosophy that we have seen in the national budgets for 5 or 6 years. Tax rates were reduced, and we had other smaller taxes that were introduced. In the last budget, we have seen some of those taxes being removed, such as STT, departure tax, and few others, stamp duty in particular, the big one. So this is going to help us to broaden the economic growth, and to go back to where we were before. Certainly, the whole dynamics have changed. The whole game has changed. And it is incumbent on FRCS apart from collecting revenue, we should be there to also grow the economy. And that's why we are administering, I did mention about the MSME. We are also implementing the stronger Fiji incentive. So these are the ways where fiscal policy can influence the economic growth. We are seeing things are improving. Our latest intelligence is showing us that there is a peak improvement. But compliance and our debt collection will always be there.
Mr. Nalute, bringing it back to online services being provided by the FRCS and Phase 2 being implemented in February, for those that are unaware about some of the requirements that one must meet in order to be a part of this program, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, the important thing is please sign up with taxpayer online services. If you haven't done it, you please go to your nearest FRCS office or email with your valid ID, so that you get the one-time login code if you haven't gone in. So then you can go there and do your registration, request for joint ID card, whatever services that are already live, that I already mentioned. And also for those that are already there, they just use the username and password, and then they can go into the system and, for example, change their circumstances, maybe a change of bank account, or change of address, or the business want to file in the VAT returns. Actually, the take up on the returns filing, the one that I already mentioned, has been very good in terms of those that come in for our assistance and those that just did it by themselves. So that means that people are actually interested in going forward. And also with the February 1st coming up, the other TPOS process, when I talk about TPOS, this is the taxpayer online services, there's a provisional tax filing also coming in. Those that engage with get commission for provision of insurance, commission for sale of property, books, publications, for example, and contract for services like electricians, those who provide services, contract for services.
Just to build on that question, suppose I'm a small business owner and I've never accessed that the online services before. What do I need in order to sign up?
You need to contact the FRCS as early as practicable. If you go to the nearest office, they'll give you the one-time login code, because this is in terms of security. They will give it to you, so that you use that code, and then you go in and you sign in, and then from there, then you can use the services that are within. I encourage, if those ordinary, like taxpayers out there, those that, for example, want the tin, please go to the nearest FRC if you haven't got your one-time login code. And apart from that, going forward in terms of February, and also the provisional tax COE, we have those services that are coming out. RWTCU, you remember, those who over 55 years and they got, money in the bank, they got interest. They can apply for certificate for exemptions, and those that have income below 30,000. These are some of the services that are coming in on February 1st. But importantly, please sign up to the system. Go to our website.
So we come to the end of the show. Just a final question. Looking forward to 2021, when can we expect FRCS services to be fully automated online?
Okay, certainly. I think, as you know, that the overall tax administration requires a lot of steps. So registration has been one. If somebody is registered with us, the next step is to file a return. Once the returns are filed, then the taxpayer will be notified on the amount of tax to pay. But the point that I want to also share with the general public and with yourself, FRCS will be also rolling out what we call income tax self-assessment, meaning that taxpayers will file their own return. FRCS will not assess and go back to them and say, this is your tax bill. So income tax return will be filed, taxpayers will, and then they'll pay. So with regards to the actual question with regards to when we are going to see this thing all getting live, I think the general answer would be that we have achieved value-added tax filing, which is a major component of the system. The income tax components, the filing of returns, is being planned for this year as well. And there would be other smaller ones. So we are confident to achieve a lot of modules being implemented as the year progresses. And the earlier it gets done, the better. But the reality also is that when we launch any system, we also receive feedback from the taxpaying community that please go and look at this particular part of the system, and that will require a bit more enhancement, a bit more discussion. So whilst we want to get it done as soon as possible, we have to be also cognizant of the fact that we have to respond to some of the emerging issues that the system has, and that may take a bit of time to resolve. But our focus is to ensure it's done possible.
There's so much more that I feel like can be discussed, but unfortunately that's all we have time for. Gentlemen, on behalf of my co-host, thank you very much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope this show was informative for you as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good evening.